It's no surprise that Marvel Comics changed a lot of Thor's original history as a Norse god, and more for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Although Marvel's rendition of Thor retains many aspects of the original Norse mythology, it's unsurprising that the writers changed a few key elements of these ancient myths in order to bring them into the world of superheroes. There are the obvious things, like the addition of spaceships, shawarma joints, and enormous green rage monsters, but there are many subtler alterations Marvel made to these Scandinavian stories that might go unnoticed by the untrained eye. Welcome to VOLO Media. Before we begin, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Also, make sure to click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future videos such as this. Here are 8 ways Marvel's Thor differs from the original Norse mythology. 8. Red hair and a beard. Thor Odinson is totally awesome. This iconic god has definitely come a long way since his origins in Norse mythology. Nowadays, when you picture the god of thunder, it's probably the piercing blue eyes and golden blonde hair of Chris Hemsworth that come to mind. But in the original myths, Thor didn't have flowing blonde, L'Oreal smooth hair that he has in the Marvel Comics. Traditionally, Thor is red-haired and red-beard. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did initially consider a red-headed version of Thor, but ultimately decided to go with their own design for the character.
Please, kind sir, do not cut my hair. No!
One that Mr. Hemsworth does an impeccable job of bringing to life, especially the peck part. 7. The mythological Thor can't fly. Okay, neither can Marvel's Thor. Not really. Instead, he utilizes the momentum and flight capabilities of Mjolnir to yoink himself through the air with the greatest of ease. This isn't the case for mythological Thor, who instead relies on a magical chariot pulled by 2 goats to travel quickly. These goats, Tangrisnir and Tangustjoster, crop up in 2 poems within the poetic Edda. They're not just helpful travel companions either. They provide sustenance for a long journey. Not by providing goat's milk or cheese, you understand. Instead, Thor eats them. He kills them, skins them, cooks them in a pot, and eats the lot, and then uses his hammer to bring their bones back to life the next day. Of course, Tangrisnir and Tangostr turn up in the Marvel Comics, but are yet to make an appearance in the MCU. Let's hope that Thor: Love and Thunder changes that. 6. The mythological Thor is ugly. Whilst Marvel Comics Thor has always been a dashing chap, it wasn't until the birth of the MCU and the casting of Chris Hemsworth that Thor was considered drop-dead gorgeous. Striking blue eyes, a chin chiseled from marble, and the sort of physique that makes men, women, animals, and minerals weak at the knees. Thor certainly stands out in a crowd. The Thor of ancient mythology stands out for quite another reason, however. He's ugly. The original Thor had blood-red eyes, red hair, and a wild and untamed red beard. Some accounts go even further, suggesting his face had a pig-like appearance. Still, when you spend the majority of your time smashing frost giants, who cares whether or not you can make people swoon with only a cocked eyebrow? 5. Loki doesn't help Thor during Ragnarok. In the film Thor: Ragnarok, Loki finally redeems himself, embracing the better angels of his nature and fighting alongside Thor in the final battle. But in the original myths about Ragnarok, the devil on Loki's shoulder wins out, and he allies himself against the other gods. He chooses not only to fight against Thor, but also to lead an army of the dead to attack Asgard, crossing the line from a troubled anti-hero into an outright villain. In the Marvel films, Loki may dance around this line, but he never quite crosses it. Rather, it's Hela who ends up leading an army of the dead into Asgard. 4. Loki is not Thor's adopted brother. The strained relationship between Thor and Loki is core to the Marvel movies. If it weren't for his difficult relationship with his brother, Loki would have never attacked Earth. The Avengers wouldn't have assembled, and we never would have found out how good of a chaser shawarma is for alien invasions.
You ever tried shawarma? There's a shawarma joint about 2 blocks from here. I don't know what it is, but I want to try it.
But in the original mythology, Loki is no brother to Thor. In the prose Edda of Snorri Sturluson, Loki is actually a stepbrother of Odin. But a troubled relationship between brothers makes for a more compelling storyline than the relationship between a god and his step-uncle. So we can understand why they went their way. 3. Thor marries goddess Sif. Unsurprisingly, Thor does not in fact date an American astrophysicist named Jane Foster in traditional Norse mythology. Rather, he is married to Sif, the goddess of the harvest. Interestingly, it is Sif, not Thor, who is known for her flowing golden hair in the original myths. And like Thor couldn't stand the idea of a haircut in Thor Ragnarok, Sif falls into a depression after Loki cuts her hair off as a prank. Eventually, after some forceful persuasion from Thor, the only kind of persuasion Thor seems capable of, Loki gets the dwarves to make Sif new hair, similarly to how Eitri made Thor a new god-killing weapon in Avengers Infinity War, but a little less epic. 2. Thor needs gloves to wield his hammer. In the Marvel movies, Thor needs nothing but his own worthiness to wield Mjolnir. But in the original myths, he requires Jarngripr, a special set of gloves to be able to use his hammer. Alongside Mjolnir and Miganjoro, a mystical belt that increases his strength, these gloves are supposed to be one of Thor's 3 most crucial possessions. However, they're not included in the films. Although the reference was brief, the belt, Mogingjoro, actually is used by Marvel's version of Thor. In Spider-Man: Homecoming, it was revealed that the belt was being shipped for storage at the new Avengers facility. While listing off items for packing, Happy Hogan tries to pronounce the belt's name, eventually giving up and just calling it Thor's magic belt. 1. During Ragnarok, Thor and Loki die. Shockingly, the Asgard of Norse myth and of Marvel Comics are pretty similar. They both are part of the world tree, Yggdrasil. They're both connected to the other realms by the Bifrost Bridge, and they're both where the gods dwell. Really, other than Marvel's insistence that the god's divinity is through some mysterious kind of science, they're working on the same template here. But when it comes to the end of the world, the 2 versions are vastly different. At the end of Thor Ragnarok, Thor and Loki both survive Surtur's attack on Asgard and fly off in their spaceship unharmed. But this isn't how Ragnarok went down in the original myths. In fact, pretty much every well-known god is supposed to die during Ragnarok, including Thor, Loki, Odin, and Heimdall. Plus, Surtur sets not just Asgard on fire, but the entire universe, leaving only a handful of gods and 2 humans alive to restart civilization. But if this had happened in the Marvel films, there wouldn't have been much left for Thanos to do. So we get why the writers decided to, well, not light the whole universe on fire. Which one is more epic to you? What do you think about it? Tell us in the comments section below, and see you next time!